Hello, welcome to Heady Remarks. It's just me tonight. I don't really know where to begin, but I just wanted to talk about JFK and RFK in conjunction with one another, because I noticed they don't do that a lot. They do stuff, whatever it may be on one or the other, like in the mainstream news. And yeah. I guess I don't need to wear earbuds or anything. Okay, so I've got coffee, I've got like all these links, got my notes. I didn't finish the audiobook, but I was trying to, had it going fast, but I was too slow. A Lie Too Big to Fail by Lisa Pease, Peas, I think. What it's called? Kind of reminds me of the banks, too big to fail. A Lie Too Big to Fail. Yeah, Lisa Pease. It's Pease. Yeah. The real history of the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Because everyone knows JFK. I don't know. People don't talk about RFK quite as much, Bobby Kennedy's. And when you look at them both at the same time, there are things that sort of match. I don't claim to know everything about it just yet. There's like so many stumbling blocks that I think are purposely set up to keep you from figuring it out. A lot of false ends, a lot of dead ends, a lot of smoke screens, a lot of rabbit holes. Okay, so this is also to do with hypnosis, potentially. So JFK, RFK, I'm just going to look at my notes. Lee Harvey Oswald, he has a brother named Robert. Lee wanted an attorney from New York named John Jacob Abt, ABT, attorney for the American Communist Party. His father dies when he's young. Marguerite, his mom, gives brothers to orphanage, but then later moved to New Orleans from Dallas, Texas. With his mother, ? Sorry, these notes. Later moved to New York, the Bronx, living with father's half-brother, John. So it doesn't sound super stable. That's Lee Harvey Oswald's life. And sometimes he would use an alias, supposedly Alec Heidel or AJ Heidel. Yeah, I would have been able to finish this book before it was time if I had not been like sidetracked by so many, you get into listening to it and then you realize it's not really a good book. Marguerite was his mother. John William Fritz was the interrogator of Oswald, because I'm really interested in Oswald and his entire, it was called 2 Days to Live, I think. I mean, it had a lot of interesting information, but Jesse E. Curry was the Dallas police chief. And if I remember correctly, he was sort of steering things a bit. Agent in charge, Emory Roberts. Okay, how about that just real quick on JFK? There's an agent in charge, Emory Roberts, calls the bodyguards away. I'm going to have to pull up BitChute. Just trying to get like an MO. It's hard not to believe that these two murders of these two brothers, 4.5 years apart, were not committed by the same people. I think that would be hard for me to believe that it wasn't connected, especially, we'll see. Okay, so just... Okay, 1 sec. So I don't know if I'm supposed to plug it in. Oh, shit. Maybe I should get the earbuds. I don't Okay, so share screen. I hope that the sound works. Okay.
Everything seemed normal as the president's Secret Service bodyguards kept their ever-watchful eyes on the crowd. Everything seemed normal as the president's motorcade began its journey. Everything seemed normal. That is, up until this instant. What took place is so odd that we're going to examine the scene 4 more times. Watch the left side of your screen. The arrow points to Agent in Charge, Emory Roberts, as he stands in the Secret Service follow-up car and motions with his hand. What he is doing is calling away the president's 2 most important bodyguards, the bodyguards whose job was to protect the president's back by riding on the bumper of the limousine throughout the motorcade. Watch again as he stands and orders the agents running at the rear of the president's car away. Watch the confusion inside the follow-up car that results. Now watch the right side of your screen. The arrow points to one of 2 agents whose job was to hop aboard the bumper and act as human shields. He's obviously perplexed. Watch as he shrugs his shoulders 3 times in dismay, each shrug more dramatic than the last.
They're supposed to be on that bumper.
As you watch this scene for the final time, ask yourself, is this the kind of conduct you would expect from an agency that routinely sends an advance team to a city? Now ask yourself if the assassination could have taken place at all, had those men been on the bumper during the motorcade. This is the rear of the presidential limousine. The back bumper is specially designed with a platform on both the right and left sides. There are also handrails on both sides of the trunk. This is where the agents should have been to provide the president even minimal security. The president, unaware of the treachery behind him and the danger waiting for him ahead, continued on to his death. You are about to see segments from 3 of at least 4 films shot in Dealey Plaza of the assassination. The 4th was confiscated by the FBI and has never been released for public viewing.
Okay. Anyway, that was Emory Roberts pulling them off the bumper for some reason. Turn it off. Okay. William Greer, Secret Service agent, driver of JFK's car. Roy Kellerman, Secret Service agent, supervisor. So he's Greer's supervisor, the driver's supervisor, sitting in front passenger side beside Greer. Henry Manasco Wade served as prosecutor of Jack Ruby for killing Oswald. This is random info I took notes on. The 6th Floor Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that depends upon the generosity of donors for support. I started looking into the museum for a while. I'll skip that. So with RFK, he had just won the California primary. He survived for 25 hours before dying. He was killed at age 42. Frankie Mankiewicz, Mankiewicz? I don't know how to say that. Suggested / insisted RFK exit through the kitchen at the Ambassador Hotel. Paul Schrade, member of RFK entourage, calling for new investigation. Ira Goldstein, because multiple people were shot. He was 17 years old. Teenage rookie reporter lives now in obscurity. Sirhan Bashara Sirhan was the one convicted of RFK murder, but he managed to not get murdered like Oswald did by Jack Ruby. His real name's Jacob Rubenstein. Stanislaw Prusinski was filming at RFK's. Polish guy. There's a guy named Michael Wayne. Shoot, did I spell it wrong? Because he spelled it two different ways. He spelled it like Wayne, but he... It's like Wein or Wien, but yeah, he would. Michael Wayne RFK. I wanted to see the original spelling of his name. I'm sure I have it somewhere. Okay, anyway, he was from Great Britain, of Jewish background, but not from the Middle East, according to himself. He exchanged tie clasps with RFK. He looked kind of like Sirhan. And then I also saw him described as a Palestinian Jew, pretends to be a collector of memorabilia, which turns out to be not true. Tie tack, trading badges, different colored press badges. My notes. I have a picture of him somewhere. Share screen. That's Michael Wayne. Kind of looks like Eric Bana, who was in the movie Munich. Okay, sorry. It has been like all week I've been obsessed with this, but for some reason I'm just like, okay. It might be connected to MLK. So there's a bunch of assassinations all in a row of a short time period. Malcolm X. And I don't know. I'll just go ahead and come out and say that I think that they're all maybe connected. And the perpetrators, he really does. Yeah, looks like Eric Bana. What are all these notes? I have links. I don't know if I'll get blocked trying to use these links. RFK's son. So RFK Jr. Oh God, I don't even know where to begin. Damn it. I'm just gonna share some photos. I started thinking Mossad did it, long story short. Or the CIA, or both. Possibly a combo. These are not really related, these ones. But okay, here we go. This is a drawing, obviously. This is RFK, the brother of JFK. So 4.5 years later, he's I think he was killed because they knew he would become president, and he wanted to basically to keep the JFK assassination from being like figured out, because that was his brother and he was gonna do it. He was gonna find out. He was very popular. Okay, so he's to his right in the kitchen pantry. Note that was it the LAPD? They said there were 77 people crammed into that kitchen pantry room when that happened. The bullets are entering from behind. The one that killed him went behind his right ear, mastoid, through his head, broke up in his head, just like JFK's. So, because like I said, we're looking at modus operandi. If we're just checking into the idea that the same people that did this have done other things with similar things, similar tactics. Yeah, through his armpit. So I guess they're saying he was hit 3 times. But the one that killed him entered behind his right ear. This lady got hit in the head. I heard that she was like bending down to pick something up or touch her foot for some reason or something. And a loose bullet had gone. Oh, you know what we should do? We should listen to the audio of the bullets being fired, because it's been said there were 13 bullets fired, gunshots, 13 gunshots, and that two times there were double shots. So, yeah. And the book I was listening to, that Lie Too Big to Fail, it was saying that it was possible that Sirhan, it's weird because he's a Christian. He was born in Jerusalem. But, you know, they framed it as like a Palestinian terrorist kind of thing. So they like positioned particularly, I mean, with RFK, Israel as like a victim, you know, like because RFK, what was it? Supposedly he had said something about, you know, giving them some Phantom fighter jets, like 50 Phantom fighter jets. I don't know. He wasn't particularly supportive of Israel in any way. Like he did the basics, you know, to try and like, you know, anyway, she got hit in the head. So I don't know. It was like stuck in her head, but it didn't kill her. Oh, there's the real lady. The wife of someone. Proximity of the murder weapon to the 3 gunshot wounds in Senator Kennedy, Noguchi stated. Noguchi is the guy, the coroner, medical examiner. They did a pretty good job keeping his body from getting like stolen off to some secret military, or, you know, I don't know. Remember, like JFK was literally at gunpoint stolen his body so that they would go do the autopsy, supposedly because they said the hospital was being disrespectful. And it's like, they just used that as an excuse so they could move it to the hospital they wanted. I know you speak of numbers. Does 13 have significance? Adds up to 4. I met a lady the other day who said that 13 was her favorite and her lucky number. I was born on a 13. But then it's like Friday the 13th, and like it's on like, I don't know anything about it, like with the gematria stuff. I get this weird feeling that the number 4 is kind of a non-evil number, which makes no sense. I'm like, what am I even saying? But proximity of the murder weapon to the 3 gunshot wounds. Okay, so as to muzzle distance, in my opinion, in the head wound, right mastoid, it was 3 inches from the right ear. He said that at the most, though. He clarified that plenty of times. The gunshot wound number 2, nearly a contact wound, was about the same, very close. It burned his skin. It was close to him. Noguchi's testimony indicated 1 inch, 1.5 inches to 3 inches at the absolute most. Yeah. What else we got? I didn't know James O'Keefe and Lee Harvey Oswald were related. Because they do look similar. It is even 4, not prime. Maybe that's why it's not evil. Is this, you know, I want to look. Okay, so since I'm seeing similarities between 9/11 and these events, both were very traumatizing. Both were, I mean, all 3, I guess. We're talking about these 2 murders and 9/11. They were all put on TV a bunch so that we would see it a bunch, be traumatized and terrorized. There were always people there to document the event, so to speak. And, well, the Ambassador Hotel, where RFK was killed, was Zionist-owned, supposedly. I need to pull up, because my boy Bolin has done some work on it. Okay, so there's Lee Harvey Oswald. 48 Hours to Live, that's what I was listening to. Mossad and the JFK assassination. Whoa. Okay, so in March 1992, Illinois Representative Paul Finley said in the Washington Report on Middle East Affairs, "It is interesting but not surprising to note that in all the words written and uttered about the Kennedy assassination, Israel's intelligence agency, the Mossad, has never been mentioned. Considering that the Mossad is quite possibly the most ruthless and efficient intelligence agency in the world, it is peculiar that they have never been scrutinized in relation to the Kennedy assassination, especially when practically every other entity in the world, short of Elvis impersonators, has been implicated." But that all changed in January 1994 with the release of Michael Collins Piper's Final Judgment. In this book, Piper says Israel's Mossad was a primary and critical behind-the-scenes player in the conspiracy that ended the life of JFK. Through its own vast resources and through its international contacts in the intelligence community and in organized crime, Israel had the means, it had the opportunity, and it had the motive to play a major frontline role in the crime of the century, and it did. Okay, so I'm not crazy, all right? I'm not the only one. Causing us to question our safety. Yes. Also to, I was getting into like the MK Ultra hypnosis stuff. Something I read, I was reading so much stuff, said that they will traumatize a child at age 3 and again at age 6 somehow, whether it be like, SA, that's what I've heard the lefties call it when they don't want to say assault, when they're 3 and again when they're 6. But it also said like something else, like make them participate in killing like a pet or animal, like horrific things. The 3 events you're analyzing. Oh, yes. To question our safety and to give up our freedom willfully in search of safety, I suppose. Their motive? Israel's much-touted Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion, who ruled that country from its inception in 1948 until he resigned on June 16th, 1963, was so enraged at John F. Kennedy for not allowing Israel to become a nuclear power that Collins asserts in his final days in office, he commanded the Mossad to become involved in a plot to kill America's president. Ben-Gurion was so convinced that Israel's very survival was in dire jeopardy that in one of his final letters to JFK, he said, "Mr. President, my people have the right to exist, and this existence is in danger." In the days leading up to Ben-Gurion's resignation from office, he and JFK had been involved in an unpublicized contentious debate over the possibility of Israel getting nuclear capabilities. Their disagreement eventually escalated into a full-fledged war of words that was virtually ignored in the press. Ethan Bronner wrote about this secret battle between JFK and Ben-Gurion years later in a New York Times article on October 31st, 1998, Halloween, calling it a fiercely hidden subject. In fact, the Kennedy-Ben-Gurion conversations are still classified by the United States government. Maybe this is the case because Ben-Gurion's rage and frustration became so intense and his power so great within Israel that Piper contends it was at the center of the conspiracy to kill John Kennedy. This stance is supported by New York banker Abe Feinberg, who describes the situation as such. Ben-Gurion could be vicious, and he had such a hatred of the old man. Joe Kennedy, Sr., JFK's father. Oh, remember he came up when we talked about the Depression? Sorry, my responses are lagging when I comment. Oh, yeah, I have to do like a little time travel. Frustration became so great. Yeah, so he hates Joe Kennedy, the dad. Ben-Gurion despised Joe Kennedy because he felt that not only was he an anti-Semite, but that he had also sided with Hitler during the 1930s and 40s. Anyway, Ben-Gurion was convinced that Israel needed nuclear weapons to ensure its survival, while Kennedy was dead set against it. This inability to reach an agreement caused obvious problems. One of them revolved around Kennedy's decision that he would make America his top priority in regard to foreign policy, and not Israel. Kennedy planned to honor the 1950 Tripartite Declaration, which said that the United States would retaliate against any nation in the Middle East that attacked any other country. Ben-Gurion, on the other hand, wanted the Kennedy administration to sell them offensive weapons, particularly Hawk missiles. Okay. What is this? Oh, this is Fritz, right? Wait. I forgot his first name, but Fritz gained nationwide attention when he headed the investigation of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. He was the first person to question suspected assassin Lee Harvey Oswald just hours after Kennedy was shot on November 22nd, 1963. Though he did not get a confession, Fritz said he had all the proof he needed to convict, and before midnight, he formally charged Oswald with the president's murder. I was just going to say, so like looking at MO, I know you're missing your co-host. Yeah, she's got a sick baby. We wish them well. I think she's sick too. So that sucks. Though he did not get a confession, he said he had all the proof he needed. Okay, sorry. What I was going to say was, if it's going to remind me of 9/11, the way they operate is they have operatives at every step of the way. Oh, I'm already halfway through an hour and I'm not even anywhere near work. I have like way more to talk about. Okay, so under the direction of Dallas Police Chief Jesse E. Curry, Fritz helped plan the transfer of Oswald, like from the security, the shitty security usually who's in on it somehow, at the beginning all the way to the, every step of the way there's handlers, operatives, even up to the memorial, the litigation after the fact, everything, every step of the way. So that's who I was trying to spot, was like, the chain of. Helped plan the transfer of Oswald to the county jail and was present when Oswald was shot and killed by Jack Ruby. During the move 2 days later, for years after the assassination, Fritz rarely spoke of the case and turned down repeated offers for books and articles. In November 1969, he was appointed Night Commander of the Criminal Investigation Division, an appointment that some interpreted as a demotion. He retired 3 months later on February 27th, 1970. Dallas Chief of Police Jesse Curry was riding in the lead car of the presidential motorcade with Sheriff James Eric Bill Decker when they turned west off Houston Street onto Elm Street. Looking straight ahead, they noticed a few unauthorized people on the overpass and wondered how they got there. Those people were later described as 13 railroad men and 2 policemen who were stationed on the overpass. Curry later recounted in his Warren Commission testimony and with the LBJ Presidential Library that he rode in the lead car of the motorcade carrying President Kennedy. He provided security for both the president and the vice president, LBJ. Texas lawyer. Okay, he's the one who prosecuted Jack Ruby. Agent Hill is a good person. I just wanted to point that out. I think he's the one who was going like, what the hell, the Secret Service. I don't think he was in on it. Not AC and well, oops. Operatives are easily influenced. Operatives are easily influenced and manipulated. There, we got it. Later when the shots were fired in Dealey Plaza, Agent Roberts ordered his men not to leave the backup car. This order was disobeyed by Agent Hill, who managed to keep Mrs. Kennedy from climbing out of the presidential limousine. This was the only heroic action displayed by the Secret Service that fateful day. You know, at one point I was totally convinced that it was the guy in the car behind JFK who shot him and that it was like an accident, possibly. Okay, another peculiar similarity is that the Ambassador Hotel where RFK was killed and the World Trade Center were both owned by Zionist Jews who had very high-level connections to the State of Israel. In both cases, the ownership of the building also appears to have played a key role in the crime. Oh, so this is talking about RFK now. Sorry, I just switched back and forth. It's both. We're doing both. In the case of the World Trade Center, having control of the property allowed the terrorists to prepare the buildings for the explosive demolitions that occurred on 9/11. Larry Silverstein, former national director of the United Jewish Appeal, a major funding operation for Israel, obtained control of the Twin Towers about 5 weeks before 9/11. For years prior to 9/11, Silverstein had regular weekly phone calls with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the godfather of the War on Terror, which began as a result of the false flag terror attacks. What were Netanyahu and Silverstein talking about every Sunday afternoon? The Ambassador Hotel was owned by J. Meyer Schein, Schine, who was connected to the Jewish mob and the Henry Crown family. Don't know who Henry Crown is. Oh yeah, that was just a smaller. I'm just doing all my screenshots. So the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles was owned by Junius Meyer Schein, father-in-law of Lester Crown, son of Henry Crown, born Krinsky, the largest shareholder of General Dynamics, a leading defense contractor. Henry Crown was a high-level Zionist agent who sent an aircraft manufacturing plant to Israel in the early 1950s in violation of U.S. law. The factory he sent to Israel illegally became the original Israel Aircraft Industries IAI plant. The Crown family is also connected to both The Crown family is also connected to both Kennedy assassinations and the 9/11 cover-up. Under Meyer Schein's ownership, the Ambassador Hotel hosted the gambling operations of Mickey Cohen, the West Coast lieutenant of Jewish mob boss Meir Lansky. U.S. Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy had been involved in the prosecution of Cohen, in which he was convicted for tax evasion and sent to Alcatraz in 1961. Who arranged for Kennedy to use the Ambassador Hotel? Good questions. These are good questions. Okay, that's the same thing. After events began to wind down, I remembered this strange incident where Frank Mankiewicz was insistent that Bobby leave through the kitchen rather than the ballroom. I discreetly asked others who had campaigned with him for a long time if it made any sense that Bobby would leave through the kitchen rather than through the crowd of supporters, and they all said RFK preferred to walk through a crowd after a speech. Neither at the time nor for many years afterward did I mention the incident that I witnessed, nor did I see any published accounts anywhere explaining why Bobby went through the kitchen. Frank Mankiewicz, who had previously served as a West Coast director for the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, probably saying that wrong, worked with the Kennedy campaign. Why did Mankiewicz insist that Kennedy go through the pantry, where Sirhan was waiting with a loaded gun? What kind of hotel security would allow an armed stranger to loiter in the kitchen for a half hour with a presidential candidate speaking in the next room? The fact that the Ambassador Hotel and the World Trade Center were owned and controlled by individuals with high-level connections to Israel is very significant. This makes it possible to consider that Israeli agents could have taken advantage of these connections to carry out both false flag operations. This would explain the use of an apparently mind-controlled Palestinian as the fall guy and the universal reluctance of the mainstream media to look. Sorry, I guess I don't get to finish that sentence. Okay, this is getting boring. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll take a break and watch a video, but it might kick me off. I don't know. Where is it? I don't know. Tell me if I get cut out or something, if you're still there. Oh, shit.
no question in my mind why it is the
1968.
senator did so well this evening. Because there are people like you that are willing to wait in this terrific heat. If you're willing to do that, there was never any doubt that we were going to win here. The senator is in the elevator. He's on his way down. And so we're not going to keep you.
I haven't even mentioned yet the girl in the polka dot dress. Like, she's really important. I don't know. I might just go ahead and do a long one.
I managed Senator Robert Kennedy's campaign in New York in 1964. Senator Edwards in Massachusetts in 1962. Hey, come on. Wait a second. All right.
Hold on. Okay, so Timmy the Genius says, mind control? Sounds very Manchurian Candidate-ish. Do you want to know something really weird that you made me remembering? The night before he gets killed here, RFK, Robert Kennedy, he spent the night at a producer's house of the movie The Manchurian Candidate. John Frankenheimer. That's where he stayed the night before. And he's supposed to be the one who drove him to the hotel. I don't know why they wouldn't have a driver like that. I don't like coincidences like that. I know, right?
Well, come on, let's back it up. Kind all around the globe and the next generation. And I would hope.
Wait, sorry.
So I thank all of you who made this possible this evening. All of the effort that you made, and all of the people whose names I haven't mentioned, but who did all of the work at the precinct level, who got out the vote, who did all of the effort, brought forth all of the effort that's required. I was a campaign manager 8 years ago. I know what a difference that kind of an effort and that kind of commitment makes. So I thank all of you, those of you who are here. Mayor Yorty has just sent me a message that we've been here too long already. So my thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there. Thank you very much.
It's like shortly after this he gets killed. And I think you're supposed to be able to hear it. They like analyzed it. I'll show that next. Like people analyzing the sounds to determine how many gunshots there were. Is that Ethel? I think Ethel is his wife there. I think he had made it before then. He made it even just before JFK was killed, actually. It's like the original John Frankenheimer produced. People start freaking out. You're not going to hear it on this one, probably.
Hey, I want to hear really loud. Who's going to be the next president of the United States? RFK! 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 RFK!
Did it already happen?
Hey, here's a man. Listen to him. Kenny, row.
I think it happened. Everyone, I just hear screaming. And everyone, you like feel it. It just suddenly changes. It's like pandemonium.
I'm right here.
I mean, not really, but oh, she's crying. This is such trauma all over again.
I don't know. I can't. What happened? You know? Somebody said he'd been shot. I'm not.
It's hard not to feel kind of emotional about it for some reason. It's like,
Keep me plugged in.
you motherfucker.
Please stay back. Everybody else, just please stay back. Just the doctor, come right here.
Let's roll some videotape on this out here, friends.
Would a doctor come right here? A doctor. We need a doctor right here. There's a microphone, please, immediately. Is there a doctor? Everybody, please stay back. Please stay back. We need a doctor here.
Is there a doctor in the house, please? It's very important. We need a doctor. Is there a doctor?
Quiet.
Quiet, please. The best thing everybody can do here is in an orderly way leave. Would you please do that? Just in an orderly way, clear the room. Can we do that, please? Quiet, please. Best thing and the most helpful thing.
Okay, sorry. I am sure that people that plan something so powerful and think they can get away with it easily toe the line by making stories of what they know will play out in real life. Yeah, it's called ideation. It's like Inception, planted in your head. Okay, that's a good point to talk about. Hold on, just real quick, going back to JFK. In a 1975 interview with Mike Wallace, Hill, I don't know why I can't remember his last name. Or his first name. Hill. Agent Hill. Whatever, I can't find it. Hill tearfully surmised that if he had reached the vehicle a second earlier, he would have been able to take the third shot to his own body and felt a great deal of regret for not having been able to reach there in time. So he's told to, not ride on the back and not run to the car, but he did anyway on that one. I need to talk about hypnosis. Damn it. Ugh. I have to make this a longer one because I don't want to not talk about it. The girl in the polka dot dress. Ugh. Okay, hold on. Just real quick. No. Okay. Sure. I don't know. So this article is called Thane Eugene Caesar, RFK Jr. calls him possible assassin. So, yeah, RFK's son, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I think I've got a video of him somewhere too. Oh God. I don't know. I just keep wanting to skip around. Strange Memories. That's a really good one. Oh shit. Oh crap. Hold on. It's CBS News. I don't know if I can do that. What do I want to play? Damn it. Okay, let's go to Strange Memories. Okay, I hope it'll let me play it. Okay, sorry. Okay, tell me if it cuts out. These assassinations broke the American spirit. Hypnosis is a real thing, even in modern advertising. Oh, yeah. I want to know ideation. Yeah, I heard Bolin say it, Christopher Bolin. Okay. Yeah, they like broke our spirit. Demoralization.
Magic memory pill. Would you want a photographic memory? Before you answer, meet a man who couldn't forget. A rape victim points out her attacker.
That's him.
And this man is convicted.
1968. Everyone remembers the assassination of Robert Kennedy. Everyone except his convicted killer, Sirhan Sirhan. From the moment Sirhan was caught with a smoking gun to this day, as he serves a life sentence in a California prison, Sirhan Sirhan claims...
Is it still playing? This is fair use. Hold on. I just know I want to show the part when someone... Let me see. It might be part 2. Nope. This is it. Okay, please just let me play this.
That Sirhan demonstrated from the very beginning to this very day suggests strongly that he was A, highly hypnotizable, and B, programmed to perform that act. Okay.
To demonstrate how easy it is to instruct someone under hypnosis, we asked Henry, the doorman at Dr. Spiegel's building, to volunteer. First, Dr. Spiegel tests Henry for his hypnotizability.
As you concentrate...
The standardized test measures hypnotizability on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being the least hypnotizable and 5 being the most. 50% of the population falls into the mid-range of hypnotizability, somewhere between 2 to 3 on the scale. Henry tests as a 3.
Look toward me.
In Dr. Spiegel's expert hands...
Fair use. Fair use. I just want it to let me play it.
Henry is now under hypnosis. At our request, Dr. Spiegel gives Henry an instruction to comply with after he's out of his trance. Something called a post-hypnotic suggestion or instruction.
Now I'm going to give you the instruction to come out of the formal hypnosis. But before I do, I want to give you these instructions. When we're talking after the hypnosis, when I take my glasses on and put them on, you are going to loosen your tie. Now I'm going to give you instructions to come out of the hypnosis. 3, get ready. 2, with your eyelids closed, roll up your eyes, and 1, let your eyes open slowly. Then when your eyes are back in focus, make a fist, open your fist, let it float down, and that's the end of the exercise. How do you feel?
Feel good.
Dr. Spiegel engages Henry in conversation before activating the post-hypnotic instruction,
Very relaxing.
putting on his glasses to signal Henry to loosen his tie.
It's a great way to just do the self-hypnosis this way, and you get yourself more, and you can give yourself instruction to just relax.
Amazingly, Henry complies with Dr. Spiegel's instructions.
What's happening there? Huh? What's that?
A little hot.
But even more amazingly, Henry doesn't know why.
He says he's hot.
Why'd you do that?
It's hot.
It's hot.
When told that he loosened his tie because he was instructed to do so under hypnosis, he couldn't believe it.
We have to see it. We really have to see it.
When I take my glasses on and put them on, you are going to loosen your tie.
He thought he did it himself.
But even after watching the tape,
I just saw my hand coming up.
Okay, so that is so important to me because when I was reading or watching, hold on, Timmy the Genius says, the weak-minded are very influenceable by hypnosis, but from what I understand, you can't make somebody do something that isn't against their moral character, or you probably mean that is against. That's debatable from what I was hearing. Like, I don't know. That might not be true. There are reluctant believers in the ability to control certain types of people. Like, supposedly Sirhan was extremely hypnotizable. There's many witnesses that saw the woman in the white dress with black polka dots. She had short to medium length brown or black hair. And they always like commented on her nose being weird. Like it looked like it had been broken before, but it was also kind of like a pixie nose that was upturned and like just weird. And that she had a good figure. One person said slightly overweight. One person said, I don't know. They made it sound like she had like a really noticeable body. And the dress, it was not a mini skirt. It was like above the knee, but not particularly short or tight. And it had like a bib thing. So it was high necked. And she was seen with Sirhan. Like it looked like she was like holding him. And then a lot of witnesses described seeing another guy that looked like Sirhan. And I'm wondering if that's Michael Wayne. Oh, so she visual triggered. Well, she pinched him and clapped her hands, which is weird. So they've hypnotized him since. Like, oh God, where do I? It's just weird because, like, even someone who did that under hypnosis did some, like, and they could be programmed to not have any memory of it. They will explain it away just like that guy saying it's hot. You know, like when they had the electrodes hanging out of their head. I know it's different than hypnosis, but it was when the CIA, MK Ultra, same shit they were studying. However, they can figure out how to control people, you know, they were trying everything. When they would like make a noise, no, Heidi. They would control the subject to like turn their head or look under the bed or like whatever it is they're doing. And then ask them why they did that, just like this guy just did. Why did you do that? And he said, it's hot. And the subjects in this MK Ultra shit would go, I heard a noise. Or I'm looking for my shoes. You know, like they would explain it away to try to, like, they may not even, do you know what I'm saying? There's a word for it. It's where they just like, fill in the blank with whatever is like probably whatever. Just something that makes them think that they did it of their own free will. Okay, so Sandy Serrano, where's my picture of her? Got a picture of her somewhere. I don't know. This is a busboy. Gomez? Forgot his name. He's Filipino. This is Sirhan. His middle name's like Bashira, I think. He wanted to be a jockey. He's small. They justify their actions and explain it away. Yes! Yes. No one wants to believe that they're being controlled by somebody else, even though many people are. Yeah, I was reluctant to really... This is upsetting. Oh, here it is. Robert Kennedy and family stay at the Malibu mansion of film director John Frankenheimer, who directed The Manchurian Candidate, incidentally. So he didn't just produce it, he directed it. Robert Kennedy surfs the Malibu waves and hangs out on the private beach. There are strong suspicions that Robert's real assassin was Thane Eugene Caesar, security guard hired by the hotel ambassador. Property of Zionist businessman Meyershine. They like to, you know. There she is. Sandy Serrano. Okay, so now that you saw her, she was interrogated by an LAPD cop guy while, like, she's underage, and he took her out for steak and bought her, like, alcoholic drinks. And then sort of sprung it on her, let's go do a lie detector test. And before they started to do it, he asked her aunt to leave the room and sit outside, which she did. He just, like, you know, that was not the plan. He got her to agree to go to dinner, and he bought her alcohol, and then goes, and it was highly crazy cool connection. Yeah, it's very strange. Much like gaslighting. People, oh, you want to talk about gaslighting? That was perfect timing. Because where is she? This is it. Okay, so I have to do it. Try it again. I have to make sure I share audio.
I'm 23 years old, and he was Mexican American, because I can remember that because I'm Mexican American.
Sandy, I'm not going to ask you any more questions. Not a single one. I do want to talk to you like a brother. Look, I presume, I don't know what religion you are. I'm Catholic. Are you Catholic?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. Does that mean that you don't practice? Alright, okay, here's the thing. You're an Italian young girl. You know that for some reason,
He's trying to talk her out of...
So here's what you have to think about right now. Is that I think you owe it to Senator Kennedy, the late Senator Kennedy, to come forward.
2.5 hours.
Be a woman. You don't know, and I don't know whether he's a witness right now in this room watching what we're doing in here. Don't shame his death by keeping this thing up. I have compassion for you. I want to know why. I want to know why you did what you did. This is a very serious thing.
I think those people.
No, Sandy. Remember what I told you about that? You can't say you saw something when you didn't see it. Sandy, look, I can explain this to the investigators where you don't even have to talk to them, and they won't talk to you.
He wants her to change her story about seeing the girl in the polka dot dress, running and shouting, we shot him.
And you know that you can't live a life of shame.
Hold on, just real quick. Another looking at similarities, there's glee. There's a glee in the participants' success. You know, like the dancing Israelis, the glee, the celebration. They said Sirhan had a stupid smile on his face when he started shooting. I don't know. That could be more hypnosis shit, you know? Because he just remembers getting coffee, being with the girl, and he thought he was, like, going to maybe get lucky that night, you know? Like, supposedly, and because she was, like, hanging out with him. I don't know. But yeah, her glee. They're running from the room smiling, shouting excitedly to people, we shot him. That's so funny. Interrogators always try to be your friend, or they try to be the threatening, overbearing person trying to use their weak state to manipulate them. Yeah, so for 2.5 hours, he would go through basically as if he was going through a script, starting out with saying, I like you, and calling her intelligent, And again, this is after he bought her alcohol and she's underage, but whatever. And he's trying to accuse her of lying.
Well, maybe you don't feel it, but when you get older, you will. But please, in the name of Kennedy, I don't want to believe in Kennedy. You know that this is, I mean, Sandy, you know that this is wrong. You may want to be pushing it off with a smirk on your face, with a smile, but you know that deep inside what you have done. I remember taking a girl. I'm talking about what you have told her about saying a person tell you we have shot Kennedy, and that's wrong. No, it isn't, Sandy. Please, don't have me off with the hurt. Look, I love this man. And you're shaming he right now, he can't even. Well, I'm trying not to shout, but this is a very emotional thing with me too, you see. Are you afraid right now, Sandra? Huh? Are you afraid? No, I don't like it. I know you don't. I'm afraid. I just don't like it. No, you're afraid. Now, you see what happens? There's two ways to approach this thing. What? The first one is for me to appeal to you as a decent woman that's campaigning for Senator Clinton. This is the one way I can approach. The other way is for me to hold up the paper, go out here and tell these people, have a couple of them in the downstairs. And this is the wrong way because, look, I have to look at myself. When I shave in the morning, I look at myself. Right. And right now I have my deepest compassion for you because you're a young lady. Mm-hmm. And I want to try to do whatever I believe is best for you.
No worries.
What's best for you?
Well, there was this girl she comes downstairs and she said, we shot. No, this girl in a polka-dot dress, a white dress, polka. And
don't. It's like a disease. I know what I'm telling you. I know what I'm telling you.
It said I never even seen a girl with a polka-dot dress.
I'm saying that nobody told you we have shot Kennedy.
Did somebody tell me that we have shot?
No.
I'm sorry, but that's true. That is true.
Look, one of these days you're going to be 27 years old, 28 years old. What kind of a person?
It's a whole mess of things.
What's that going to be?
Well, it's too messed up. Even I can't even remember what happened anymore.
Well, number one, you know that nobody told you we have shot Kennedy.
No, somebody told me we have shot Kennedy.
No, nobody told you.
Why are they doing this? Trying to make her change her story. What the fuck?
No, ma'am.
Yes, this is, yes.
Well, Sadie, like I say, don't be.
Well, I'm not going to say, I truly believe somebody told me, and I'm not going to say, no, nobody told me just to satisfy anybody else.
No, just the truth to satisfy yourself. No one else. Yeah. To satisfy the family, the remaining family of this, the Kennedys.
That's a dirty trick. He keeps bringing up the Kennedys, because she was a sincere RFK fan.
Now, what next? They have enough. At least it's a consolation to them. And I'm certain, and you mark my words, that one of these days, if you're woman enough, you will get a letter from Ethel Kennedy. Personally.
Oh yeah, this is when he tries to promise her she'll get a letter from Ethel. He has no power over that. He's like trying to bribe her.
No.
Something stupid.
And I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I want you to tell me the truth about the staircase. Nobody in that staircase, what you're telling me here, told you that we have shot Kennedy.
A woman told me we had shot Kennedy.
Where did she tell you this?
Outside
where?
I believe I was on the staircase.
You say I believe I was on the staircase? Sure. I mean, look, a half lie is as much as a lie because there are no half lies.
In court, it's called leading the witness. Yeah, it's really bad.
Sandy, look, you're basically a decent person. You're basically a decent person. But
back to the top. You're a good person and you're smart, right?
Your whole life in here. You're going real fast in this room right now because you know that you have to make a decision to tell what's truthful, what's honest, what's right. No, you can't say that.
I can go.
You can't say it with your lips. You can say it.
This cop is named Hernandez.
Your soul, you've told me here. These are lies. This story is a lie.
He's a piece of shit.
As we listen to excerpts from the last 20 minutes, we hear Serrano begin to wear down. Sergeant Hernandez senses her exhaustion and in his patronizing manner begins his endgame.
Making yourself suffer like this.
I'm making myself suffer.
They didn't want anyone talking about, okay, hold on. And there was another one that they tried to explain, no, this is the polka dot dress woman. This, what's her name? Valerie something. She was wearing a dress with like, it was not the right colors. It was like yellow and turquoise or something, I think. And it had lemons on it. It wasn't the polka dot dress lady. It wasn't the same dress. Wasn't the same lady. And the woman they're trying to say, oh, this must have been who you saw. She was in a cast that night. So she's not running around yelling, we shot him. Doodle Squatch says there was a commercial that aired during the JFK assassination with one of those TikTok things that hypnotists use. It's black and white. Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know if I want to waste too much time. What is it? 107. Okay. What should I go to next? Hold on. What is this one? Oh, that's just, okay, hold on. Okay. This is a good one to switch to. Jose Delgado, implants and electromagnetic mind control. Now, I'm not saying that it was electromagnetic mind control with these, but maybe, who knows? I need to look at the Oklahoma City bombing again. Didn't he claim that they pulled a microchip out of his butt? Timothy McVeigh? Yeah.
Research is not new. A scientific milestone in this area came in the 1960s when Dr. Jose Delgado demonstrated remote control over a charging bull. By connecting a radio antenna to electrodes inserted into the bull's brain, Delgado proved that the animal's aggressive impulses could be thwarted by electronically manipulating the bull's muscle reflexes.
Do you realize the fantastic possibilities if from the outside we could modify the inside? Could we give messages to the inside? But the beauty is that now we are not using electrodes.
In recent years, Delgado has shown that the behavior of monkeys can be altered using low-power, pulsating magnetic fields. But in these experiments, there were no antenna implants.
Any function in the brain, emotions, intellect, personality, well, could be perhaps modified by this non-invasive technology.
Delgado's research has so far been limited to animals. But in the Soviet Union,
Timmy the Genius says they just announced in Technologies in the first implant computer chip for the brain to assist with brain issues. So now it's a real thing for the health of the community. I need to look more into that stuff that Elon Musk is doing. Cybernetics.
a radio frequency, or RF device, has been used for over 30 years to manipulate the moods of mental patients.
Okay. Well, all right. It is seldom considered that the Kennedy assassinations might have been serial murders. In fact, in speaking about the murders, Americans rarely use the plural Kennedy assassinations. Clearly, this quirk in the Kennedy assassinations lexicon reflects an unconscious effort by journalists, politicians, and millions of ordinary Americans to avoid thinking about the two assassinations together, despite the fact that the victims are connected in countless ways. I agree with that. And that reminds me, you know the Kennedy curse? It's just a curse. It's just a curse, you guys. It's totally paranormal. Could never figure it out. You know? It's a curse. You can't figure it out. Try to figure out a curse. You can't. I mean, don't even try to look into it. It's magic. There's a reason Elon is afraid of AI. He has firsthand experience and has witnessed how bad it can get. Britney Spears had a security company called Black Box that was spying on her at her own expense in her bedroom. Audio. I don't know if they did video. Edon Yemanik? An act of God? Well, you know what they say about those who curse. Edon Yemeni? It's an Israeli company. So, spying Glee operatives at every step, including litigation and memorials. Shitty security setup. Location. I don't know. I sound crazy. Is that my last one on that? Donald Ewan Cameron was a Scottish-born psychiatrist who served as president of the American Psychiatric Association. He has been criticized for, among other things, administering electroconvulsive therapy and experimental drugs, including poisons such as Curare, to patients and prisoners without their informed consent, and his role in the history of the development of psychological and medical torture techniques. Some of his work took place in the context of the Project MKUltra program for the developing of mind control and torture techniques, psychoactive poisons, and behavior modification systems. Is he the one that called it de-patterning? They were putting people to sleep for like 2 months at a time, administering four or I can't remember how many, was it 4 or 6 per day electroshock therapy, and playing over and over again. They were just experimenting on people who just went there because they had a little bit of anxiety, and they completely ruined people's lives. They made it so that they could barely acknowledge the present, let alone the past. Like, they had amnesia of the entire first 25 years of their life. Like, they were able to wipe people's minds. But yeah, playing the same tapes over and over again of people being like, you are a good citizen, and like just weird shit. People went in, you know, for something innocuous and came out much worse off. Dismiss it as a curse, not a grudge. Yeah. Psychic driving technique he developed continued to see extensive use in the torture of prisoners around the world. Cameron is the subject of, I don't care. Presbyterian. I'm switching back to Thane Caesar. Is that his name? His first name is Thane. He was a right-winger who was he openly talked about not caring much for the Kennedys. And he's the one walking right behind RFK in the little pantry. 77 people. Exactly 77 people in the pantry. Okay. Oh, sorry, I already saw that. Thane Caesar. Oh, shit. You know what I should do? Sorry, I'm all over the place. RFK gunshot analysis? Is it in this one? It's like 46 minutes long. Sound analysis? Acoustic evidence. Oh, okay. I don't know if it'll let me share this. How's Archie? He's cute. Mwah. As usual. I don't know if it'll get mad at me.
That Senator Robert F. Kennedy was killed here in Los Angeles. Sirhan has been behind bars ever since. Tonight, a forensic expert in a high-tech crime lab has come up with a new theory that could have police looking for a second gunman. CBS 2 investigative reporter David Goldstein has the exclusive details.
My thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
It was a night that changed history.
Shot in the head, definitely.
Senator Robert Kennedy, shot and killed.
Everybody else, just please stay back. Just a doctor, come right here.
Sirhan.
I did not commit this crime.
Hold on. Where is the analysis? I don't want to play this whole thing. I want to, Okay.
There had to have been 2 guns.
That's because he's identified 13 shots on the recording and plotted them all on his computer screen.
This is shot 7 and shot 8.
And in 2 instances, he's identified the shots just milliseconds apart.
That tells us that there had to have been a second gun firing in that pantry, because it's impossible for an individual, any individual, to shoot an Ivor Johnson Cadet 55 that rapidly.
An Ivor Johnson Cadet, similar to this one, was the gun Sirhan used. It only holds 8 bullets. The other shots, according to his audio analysis, came from an H&R 922 like this one, fired, he says, by a mystery gunman. Should this case be reopened?
In my opinion, yes.
Von Prague has teamed with forensic expert Bob Joling on a book about their findings. Joling has studied the assassination for more than 30 years. The new analysis backs up his theory that Sirhan fired shots, but not the fatal ones. You're saying Sirhan didn't commit the crime?
He did not commit the murder of Robert Kennedy. He did commit a crime, but he did not assassinate Robert Kennedy. He was in no position to be able to fire his gun in order to inflict the fatal wound to Senator Kennedy from behind.
He says the mysterious second gunman actually fired those shots. So who was he? Conspiracy theorists have always talked about a security guard, but that's something these scientists can't answer.
It would be nice if my equipment was able to spew out a name.
They did not. Oh my God, it's showing me. That's weird. They did not look at Thane Caesar's gun. Wait, what have I done? What am I doing? Ah, cute. Mwah. Is Archie technically a tabby? I don't know. He's orange and white.
But that's not the way it works.
Well, there's already been at least 2 investigations into the assassination, and that hasn't changed the outcome. But both forensic scientists believe there's now enough new evidence for the case to be reopened. A spokesperson for the L.A. District Attorney, Steve Cooley, says he hasn't yet read the new findings. I'm David Goldstein, CBS 2 News. Paul, back.
Okay. I'm going to look at my notes again real quick. What is this? Okay. John Fahey says that a young girl came up to him in the Ambassador Hotel. They got to talking. She told him they were going to get Kennedy tonight. She had wads of cash in her purse. He was going to visit some business clients. She asked if she could come along to get away from some men. They rode in his car north, but he noticed that they were being followed. At one point on 101 near Malibu, he pulled over, and the car following pulled over behind them. She then told him it was no use and asked to be taken back to the Ambassador, which he did. He told her they should call the police, but she said it wouldn't do any good. Fahey said he didn't call the police because he didn't want his wife to know that he picked up a girl at the hotel. It's weird. But after the assassination, he thought it was significant and reported it. Robert Kennedy and family stay in the Malibu mansion of film director John Frankenheimer, who directed The Manchurian Candidate. Robert Kennedy... Okay, I already read this. 6:30 p.m., Sirhan runs into his friend Gaymord Mystery at Bob's Big Boy in Pasadena. They walk across the street to Pasadena City College and talk to some Arab friends in the cafeteria there. Sirhan asks Mystery to go shoot some pool, but Mystery has other plans. Sirhan gets back in his car around 7:15 p.m. He sees an advertisement in the paper for a miracle march for Israel on Wilshire Boulevard, and it angers him. He decides to drive there and see what's happening. First, he stops at an election party for Thomas Kuchel. Then he overhears about a party at the Ambassador and decides to wander down there. He says he left his gun and wallet in his car. 11 p.m., Sirhan talks with electrician Hans-Peter Bidstrup, who was running sound and lights for the party in the Venetian room. He questions him about Kennedy's plans and whereabouts. After this, Sirhan feels tired and goes back to his car. He realizes that he is too drunk to drive, so he decides to return to the Ambassador and find some coffee. So he was drinking. He says he doesn't remember picking up his gun. Sirhan says he found a shiny coffee urn with cups stacked beside it. He said that a beautiful girl walked up to him, dark hair, early 20s, and he poured her some coffee as well. The next thing he remembers is being choked on the steam table of the pantry. Okay, so it skips from coffee with the girl to choking because they're like, you know. It's insane. It just skips right over it. Kennedy press aide Judy Royer says she saw Sirhan in the pantry and asked him who he was. He immediately walked back out to the ballroom area. She noticed nothing unusual about him. Robert Clace also chased Sirhan out of the backstage pantry area, saying that only press and staff are allowed. 11:15 p.m., Watts organizer Gerald Green told the FBI that he saw Sirhan in the pantry area with a tall, thin man with dark hair, 5'11", 22 years old, and a girl in her early 20s with hair, a white dress with black polka dots, and a good figure. When Green heard the shots and ran into the pantry, the same man and woman were trying to get out of the pantry. Green jumped in the fray with Sirhan. 11:30 p.m., Sandy Serrano, a young Mexican-American campaign worker, goes out of a fire exit to get out of the heat and crowd of the lower ballroom. While sitting on the fire exit stairs, she encounters a girl in a white dress with black polka dots, a Mexican-looking man in a gold sweater, and another man who looks like Sirhan. The girl said, "Excuse us," and the three went up the stairs to the embassy ballroom. Carl Ewicker grabs Kennedy by the right hand and leads him on toward the colonial room. Sorry, this is not going in order at all. These are just random notes. That's just, I was making a note of who was pulling him that way. Student Robin Kasdan was in the kitchen with Ira Goldstein looking for sandwiches. So Ira Goldstein's the teenage reporter kid who got shot, like in the thigh or the butt. The story changes. You were amazingly detailed in your research. Thank you. I try. It's kind of all over the place, though. As she was coming out of the pantry area, so Robin Kasdan is a girl. She's with Ira Goldstein looking for sandwiches. As she was surprised by Robert Kennedy as he shook her hand. A few seconds later, she heard two definite shots. A man fell against her, Paul Schrade. The rest of the shots came in a bunch. She crouched against the wall and worked her way out of the pantry hall. When she emerged, her face and dress were covered with blood. San Diego high school student Lisa Urso is standing by a tray stacker. A small young man bumps her from behind as he steps in front of her and seems to be reaching out to shake Kennedy's hand. He kneels on the tray stacker. Reaching around and over Carl Ewicker, Sirhan points his .22 at Kennedy and yells, "Kennedy, you son of a bitch!" That reminds me of when Jack Ruby shot, what's his name? And they say Jack Ruby could have been another hypnosis guy because, I don't know, he at one point said he did it. He gave multiple reasons for having done it, supposedly because he loved Kennedy or something. And then also for Mrs. Kennedy, it's like, yeah, thanks. Thanks, but no thanks. And he also said that he could show the world that Jews can be tough. He did actually say that. And I believe Jack Ruby also made one of those statements, much like with 9/11, where we'll never truly know, perhaps. Perhaps it's impossible to know what happened. Maybe we just can't ever know. It's like, yeah, they've got it sealed till 2029, but whatever. Okay, so she points at Kennedy, you son of a bitch, as he pulls the trigger. Later, Urso tells researcher Philip Melanson that she saw a gun drawn by a blonde man wearing a gray suit standing beside Kennedy. Caesar was in uniform. I think Caesar did it. Fundraiser Nina Rhodes was waiting at the bottom of the ramp for Kennedy to go to the lower ballroom as planned. When she realized Kennedy was heading for the press room, she ran after him into the pantry. She tells the LAPD that she heard about 12 to 14 shots and that some of them seemed to be coming from the spot where Senator Kennedy fell, not in the area where Sirhan was being wrestled with. The FBI and the LAPD altered her statements to say she heard 8 distinct shots and omitted her from the list of witnesses. Okay. A security guard, Thane Eugene Caesar, says that he moved to RFK's side. He saw a hand with a gun extending between two cameramen. Now, remember, I think this is the guy that shot him, maybe. But he was blinded by the lights. He then says that the gun went off and that he was pushed and fell against the ice machine. He says that he saw RFK's head wound spilling blood. Somehow Caesar's clip-on tie is pulled off in the fall, and it lies right beside RFK. He then says that he jumped up and took his gun out of its holster to protect RFK from any further attack. In his LAPD interview, Caesar says he looked up and saw an arm and a gun. He reached for his, but it was too late, and 5 shots had been fired. He ducked because the gun was right beside him. He grabbed for Kennedy, threw himself off balance, and landed against the ice boxes. Kennedy landed right beside him. He said ace guard Fred Murphy helped him up. Paul Hope of the Washington Evening Star quoted Caesar as stating, "I fell back and pulled the senator with me. He slumped to the floor on his back. I was off balance and fell down." Caesar's statements are contradicting. First, he fell pulling the senator with him. Then he was knocked off balance and fell. First, he is helped up by guard Fred Murphy. Then he jumps up on his own and pulls his gun. He later says that he left the pantry to find his superior, Jack Merritt. Reporter Ira Goldstein is hit in the hip. Student Erwin Stroll is hit in the shin. ABC News' William Weisel is hit in the side. Elizabeth Evans' shoe comes off. She picks it up and comes back up with a wound in the forehead. That's the lady who supposedly was hit after it hit the ceiling. Rosie Greer pushes Ethel Kennedy down and covers her with his body. Bodyguard Bill Berry runs through the crowd and punches Sirhan in the face twice. Writer George Plimpton and Jack Gallivan try to pry the gun from Sirhan's grip. Later, George Plimpton said that Sirhan's eyes looked enormously peaceful. Bill Berry tells Caesar to put his gun away, which he does. Busboy Juan Romero kneels by Kennedy's side, cradling his bleeding head in his hands. Kennedy feebly asks Romero, "Is everyone all right?" Romero hands him his own crucifix from his pocket. Kennedy clutches it to his chest. Okay, that's really sad. Sorry, I'm like ignoring people. The tall, thin man was a common theme in the TV shows The Fringe and X-Files. Oh. The tall, thin man, a common description for a person's interesting. I like both those shows, Fringe and X-Files. I'm going to rewatch them. Alan Welsh Dulles was the first civilian director of the Central Intelligence and its longest-serving director to date. As head of the Central Intelligence Agency during the early Cold War, he oversaw the 1953 Iranian coup d'etat. You know what I'm trying to say. The 1954 Guatemalan coup d'etat. How do you say it? I don't know. The Lockheed U-2 aircraft program, the Project MK Ultra mind control program, and the Bay of Pigs invasion. Okay, he's the one that someone fired him. I think it was JFK. Richard Mervyn Bissell Jr. was a Central Intelligence Agency officer responsible for major projects such as the U-2 spy plane and the Bay of Pigs invasion. There were many people crammed into the room where Kennedy fell. As a result, there were many eyewitnesses to his death, and unlike the death of his brother, they had a close view. Multiple eyewitnesses saw Thane Caesar pull out his gun, but only one accused him of firing it, which Caesar has denied over the years. The key witness, cited by many believers of the second gunman theory, is a man named Don Schulman, who was then a runner for KNXT TV. He gave an interview at the scene to a local television reporter, which you can watch above. Well, I was standing directly behind him. I saw a man pull out a gun. It looks like he pulled it out of his pocket. He shot 3 times. I saw all 3 shots hit the senator. Then I saw the senator fall and was picked up and carried away. Huh? I also saw the security men pull out their weapons. After that, it was very fuzzy. The next thing I knew, there were several shots fired. I saw a woman with blood come out of her temple. I saw the security police grab someone. The crowd was very panicky. The girl in the polka-dotted dress. Serrano's description, she was with a male wearing a gold sweater, Hispanic or Latino. When running away, yelling they shot Kennedy. White dress with black polka dots and a bib collar, 3/4-inch sleeves. Short to medium length, black or dark brown hair. Pixie-like upturned nose. Caucasian. 23 to 26 years old, 5'6", good figure, brown eyes, 122 to 127 pounds. I wanted to, maybe I can, is that it? Also, it talks about the monkeys. Sorry. I'm looking through the Minds of Men documentary, trying to find. Is that it? Hold on.
After the stimulation wore off, the idea of anyone's making a destructive lesion in his brain enraged him, and it took many weeks of patient explanation before Leonard finally accepted the idea of bilateral lesions.
And then he became peaceful and accepted the treatment after they stimulated him enough. This is key, folks. Passivity.
Wiener's goal for the project was nothing less than to find the Rosetta Stone for the script of the brainwaves.
A machine that analyzed brainwaves in analog mode. As authors Conway and Siegelman wrote, the correlator was Wiener's baby, the first analog computer to apply his statistical methods automatically to the analysis of brain function. Wiener considered the machine to be the most significant work of all the things he had ever accomplished. It took Norbert Wiener 25 years to crack the code of EEGs. It was the culmination of cyber.
The doctor suggested these factors could somehow indicate which individuals were more prone to commit violent acts than others, singling them out for preventative neurological treatments before they could pose a danger to society. The project was seemingly the perfect cure to what was then being declared society's greatest illness. Right on cue, a vast, coordinated media campaign was underway to promote it to the public.
Good evening. Violence is making fortresses of portions of our cities and dividing our people into armed camps.
A female patient reported a pleasant tingling sensation in the left side of her body. Quote, "From my face down to the bottom of my legs," unquote. She started giggling, openly expressed her fondness for the therapist, who was new to her, kissed his hands, and talked about her immense gratitude for what was being done for her. Repetition made the patient more flirtatious, until she openly expressed her desire to marry the therapist. Similar ESB response was generated in an 11-year-old boy who also reported fondness for the therapist, causing the child to state that he wished he was a girl instead of a boy.
Huh?
From about 200 other points,
Okay.
ESB produced unpleasant reactions including anxiety, sadness, depression, fear, and emotional outbursts. A female patient reported feeling threatened, that she thought something horrible was going to happen, a premonition of imminent disaster of unknown cause. Some patients said they just felt as if their minds were blank, or as if they had been drinking a lot of beer. Still others were overcome by uncontrollable rage.
Dr. Frank Irvin would later describe how
one could sit with one's hand on the knob and control the level of the patient's anxiety.
Now, can you tell me if there's any change at all?
In one of our patients, stimulation through implanted electrodes evoked a flexion of the right hand. When the patient was warned of the oncoming stimulation and was asked to try to keep his fingers extended, he could not prevent the evoked movement and said, "I guess, doctor, that your electricity is stronger than my will."
Curiously, many human patients, though aware of their treatments, were inclined to try and rationalize their actions when triggered by stimulation
what I
as
was
though it
looking
were
for.
natural behavior.
Electrical stimulation in one of our patients produced head turning and with a well-oriented sequence, as if the patient were looking for something. This stimulation was repeated 6 times over 2 days. The patient considered the evoked activity spontaneous and always offered a reasonable explanation for it. When asked, "What are you doing?" the answers were, "I'm looking for my slippers. I heard a noise. I am restless. And I was looking under the bed."
Using these electrodes to target specific points within the behavioral centers in the brain, which the
Okay,
doctors...
that's kind of all I wanted to show. French. Okay, that was the first one. Neck. I heard another gunshot. Hill. Agent Hill. Oh my god.
And going underneath the triple underpass immediately after the shooting.
I think they were trying to blame everything on Cuba back then, so I don't really fall for any of that shit with Cuba being behind this, honestly. They like to blame, you know, it's like a threefold thing they can benefit from. You frame someone for the thing.
More of the crowd on the knoll. Witnesses gather in the parking lot on top of the grassy knoll. This is where 80% of them felt the shots were fired from. The original search of the railroad yards and the parking lot behind the Texas School Book Depository on top of the grassy knoll.
This is Malcolm Kilduff.
Oh, come on.
Here he comes. Now the prisoner wearing a white spider t-shirt.
Let me have it. I want it.
Whose idea to move him? Curry?
There is a prisoner. There is Lee.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. There's a man with a gun. Absolute panic. Absolute panic here in the basement of Dallas Police Headquarters. Detectives have their guns drawn.
So there's no question there who shot who. One shot fired.
Into his stomach.
He is shot. He is shot. Oswald. It is Oswald.
It went through several, or like multiple organs, because he was yanked sideways at the time, which he might have done better if he was not yanked sideways by someone. So I can't remember who did it. But it made it so that he was shot kind of from the side, and it like made it pierce multiple organs. They blame traumatic events on others so that they can justify their actions that they want to take for their own reasons. Yeah, that seems to be the MO. Now I need to re-examine John Lennon's assassination too, maybe? I don't know. Like, there are multiple... Maybe I... Post-hypnotic suggestion. Because people have trouble believing the hypnosis thing. Okay, this is going on too long. It's almost 2 hours long. Hold on. Should have had these ready, but I had some videos. Yeah, the real Manchurian Candidate. You know what? I'm an idiot. I thought I was sharing my screen that whole time. I'm such an idiot. Sorry.
Faculty at Harvard for 38 years now.
I've written 18 books. One of the books is called Memory, Trauma, Treatment, and the Law. It's a standard textbook on how people remember
Memory trauma treatment?
and how one does non-suggestive investigative interviews.
I need to go to the bathroom.
I got
I'm gonna have
involved
to
in the
stop
case with
soon.
my business partner at my private practice, whose name is Howard Behrens, a psychiatrist. And Howard Behrens had worked on as the psychiatrist for James Earl Ray for a number of years.
The guy who killed
and
MLK, supposedly.
after seeing him for over a decade, was convinced that he was not the assassin from Martin Luther King. And he was working on a case with a lawyer by the name of Bill Pepper. And when Bill Pepper got interested in the Bobby Kennedy assassination and reopening it, Howard asked me whether I'd be interested in seeing Sir Ranch. So what are the odds of that?
In the beginning, he thought he was at the hospital for a day, and then under hypnosis, he started talking and remembering that maybe he'd been there longer. And we figure out he's probably there for about 2 weeks. And he remembers a ward with no windows and maybe 6 to 8 other patients on the ward, all with head injuries.
And doctors would come into up with clipboards every day, and he remembered drifting in and out of consciousness like he was drugged. He remembers being on the special unit, and the doctors would come up with him with clipboards to take urine samples.
They're talking about Sirhan
Sirhan. About a state of mind.
Right?
You don't usually give urine samples for head injuries, but you do for drugs. So it looks like he was drugged and put on the special unit, and they determined that he was a good candidate for further training because of his level of hypnotizability.
Well, according to Munir, his brother didn't come back for about 2 weeks. His friend and his mom were
suggestible
concerned with where he
assassins.
was. And they said that it was a great change in his personality. He was more reserved. And when he finally did return home, Munir said that they got into an argument over a cup of tea, which was so unlike Sirhan because he wasn't the argumentative type at all. So his personality had changed. Before the shooting, he went to the Fish Canyon firing range. And what was unusual that day is Sirhan would usually go to the range, shoot for a little while, and then leave. That particular day, he was there for a few hours. And the range master said the range was closing down, so Sirhan had to leave. He met a friend of Bob's, big boy, and actually he regrets because the friend said, hey, let's go shoot some pool. And Sirhan, to this day, says if only he had gone with his friend, none of this would have happened. And so he went into LA.
The story I just read made it sound like Sirhan suggested playing pool, and the other guy declined. But whatever.
And he went to the Ambassador Hotel because there was another party there. And he had gone to school with a daughter of the candidate. So he thought maybe he'd run into some people there. Sirhan was not a social butterfly, very withdrawn, very much to himself. And when he was in the Ambassador Hotel, he stopped.
So we've changed it a few times. 7 p.m. Sunday from 5 to 7. Anytime from 5 to 7 p.m. Sunday, because sometimes it's hard with Fallon with kids and plans and lives and stuff. But if I'm doing it, we used to do it on Saturdays for a while, but and then we did Tuesday for a while. So yeah, I've been really trying to settle on like a set time and day. Sundays 7-ish, but maybe earlier. Sometime between 5 or 7 Sundays until it changes again, which hopefully it won't.
Stopped at the Rafferty party and then noticed that there was a larger party going on, which was the RFK victory party. And so he went there. The interesting thing is he's not a drinker. I think he had alcohol twice before in his life. And he said each time it made him ill. Supposedly he had 4 Tom Collins. And as he was drinking, obviously the drinks affected him because the alcohol went to his head. He thought he could go back home, so he went out to his car and he was going to drive home. But when he got to his car, he realized that he was too drunk. So he walked back into the Ambassador and he thought he'd have some coffee and that was strange. But he was fascinated with the Sony shortwave. So they started talking. And the gentleman started talking about anti-government matters. And he was smoking a pipe, blowing smoke into Sirhan's face.
There was a man, unusual man, which we named Radio Man, who had a turned-down handlebar mustache, horn-rimmed glasses, and spoke in a foreign accent. He said like a Cajun accent. And this man had a shortwave radio set up in the diner, coffee shop, which was very unusual.
Next visit to the doctor, again, eye drops were applied. And I sometimes wonder what were in the eye drops. what eye drops were applied. And again, he went back to the coffee shop, and who's sitting there? What we now call the radio man. And the first time he had told Sirhan that he was working on a thesis and that he would like Sirhan to read it. So Sirhan was a little confused because this guy was not a professor and too old to be a college student. He had a strange mustache, and he spoke with almost like a Cajun accent. So Sirhan stepped out on the street with this guy the second time, and this guy showed him his paper, and it was anti-government. And when asked what, he said it was anti-Nixon, anti-LBJ. There was no mention of RFK. And he said he thought that this guy was just crazy.
And he said that this person was raving on about anti-government stuff, about killing off government officials. And he said that's where the ideas came to him about killing off government officials. They came from this man named Radio Man. And every time he went to the eye doctors, he would visit Radio Man again. And because he would be set up in this diner. It turns out that the Saturday before the assassination,
Corona firing
Sirhan actually
range.
signed into this Corona firing range for some last minute training. And he was with a man that they described as having a foreign accent that turned down him.
RFK Jr. just recently had a bunch of his videos taken down from YouTube talking about, you know, the tyranny, medical tyranny.
Mustache, but he refused to sign his name. He wouldn't sign in. So we don't know who he was. But that's where Sirhan got the ideas from about killing government officials. He said that it came.
Robert Kennedy went to visit Sirhan. Talked to RFK Jr. Went to talk to him, and he thinks he's innocent.
They were suggested to him. I could never get him to remember anything
Next
about
broadcast
what happened
topic.
the weekend before the
I
assassination.
don't know. I think Fallon wanted to talk about CERN, CERN, and resilient cities. It's supposed to be cities that are resilient for climate change, but it's related to Rockefeller Foundation stuff. Supposedly Salt Lake City is one of them. So maybe that.
But if I take the Google Maps and I take the mileage from his place in Pasadena to Corona firing range, it looks like he made 3 trips. It almost matches exactly the mileage on his car. He signed in at least one of those trips. So we know he went there at least once and probably more than once. Given the fact that he may have been at this firing range
I'm
most
just going
of
to
that
let this
weekend,
play and run to the bathroom.
practicing range
It's very
movement,
unprofessional.
then what was unclear to me is
So
what he
I won't
did
know what you're hearing.
the rest of the weekend. So I just casually asked him one time, well, what did you do nights? And he said, I played on my shortwave radio. And then he starts tapping out Morse code. He was tapping out certain signals and not even know that he was tapping them out unconsciously. So I thought, well, maybe that explains the writing of the notebooks.
We asked him what channels he would listen to on his shortwave radio. And he listened to channels like America, Freedom America. He listened to channels from the Middle East. He listened to channels from Europe. And then he said that there was one channel that he listened to every night, and it was a Morse code. And he said it was so clear, and that it had to be right nearby. And he said he didn't know Morse code. And it bothered me. And I started talking to Dan about it. So Dan managed to get the prison to allow us to bring an MP3 player in.
So what I did is I took his notebooks and I took 10 neutral statements about things that he wrote in the notebooks, and then 10 inculpatory statements like range master says shoot on command, RFK must die. And I found a program on the computer where I could take those statements and type them into Morse code, and I randomized them. And it took a while to get permission from the prison to bring in a audio playback that I could play him. So I just gave him a pen and put it in his hand, and didn't say anything else. And then when I talked to him about other things, I played on the Morse code in the background. And sure enough, when the inculpatory statements came up in Morse code, he would write down inculpatory statements. Not the same ones, but he would write down things like killing a government official and things like that. I even put in a couple of dummy things about.
Hold on. This is one of the things he supposedly wrote. He said it's his handwriting, but that he doesn't remember writing it. Friday, 31 January 699. Friday, 31 January 6. Oh. RFK, 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 Robert F. Kennedy, Robert, RFK, die, must die, RFK must die, Robert is going to die. Robert is going to die. Sirhan, Robert is going to. Who killed Kennedy? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. No, no, no. Now, Friday, 31 January, Friday. Yes, yes, yes. No, no. The girl. No, 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 no. Is this the way you wrote at home? Is this so? Yes, 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 yes. Practice, 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 practice. Mind control, mind control, mind control. Interesting. May 18th, 9:45 a.m. My determination to eliminate RFK is becoming more of an unshakable obsession. He misspelled obsession. Port wine. RFK must die. RFK must be killed. Robert F. Kennedy must be assassinated. RFK must be assassinated. Sirhan Writing Under Hypnosis by Dr. Diamond. Dr. Diamond? That's just a picture of Lee Harvey Oswald and his wife, Marina. There was evidence that disappeared, ceiling tiles and other things. I forgot to mention. Okay, anyway.
Killing contemporary people.
It's exhausting and
so
depressing.
You can get him under hypnosis to do automatic writing. It's one of the features of a high hypnotizable. And the hand is dissociating. He doesn't even know the hand is writing.
So the lady who wrote the book I was listening to, she talked about going to a hypnotizer guy who, like, he happened to invite the lady who was sitting next to her up out of the audience, and she had chatted with the lady for like 20 to 30 minutes. So she had a good idea sort of who she was. She said she was just a very normal person. The hypnotist convinced her that this like Monopoly fake looking money thing he handed her was a $25,000 check. And even after she was supposed to be, the performance was over and everything, like she went to talk to the lady who was like fretting over it, still holding it, going, I can't keep this, right? I have to give this back. And she's like, look at it. Like, it's like a fake money thing. And she's like, no, this is a check written out for $25,000. And she was convinced. Even after she was supposed to be awakened from her hypnosis. The lady was saying he was listening to a shortwave radio station that broadcast in Morse code while I was away. Well. Huh.
Like all of those notebooks were things that were suggested to him.
Because he was even like Sirhan could have done that thing where they explain it away, where he's like, oh yeah, I guess I was mad because he's going to give him fighter jets or whatever they were. Phantom jets.
Over the shortwave radio is Morse code. He never even know what he was writing down.
Not being hypnotized, Sirhan had no concept what Morse code was. Under hypnosis, he started writing written replies from the Morse code. And then what I would do is if he just kept writing, I would move the paper so that he wouldn't write over what he had already written. It was fascinating to watch. When you were talking to Sirhan about this, he was under hypnosis at the time?
No, it didn't even bother him. He's so hypnotizable, he just goes into trance upon cue. You don't even have to hypnotize him. All I had to do is put the pen in his hand and over a piece of paper, and he'll just start writing automatically. He doesn't even know he's writing. It's quite dramatic. I wish I could have filmed it.
So you're talking to him normally
about something else. I was talking about nature, something like that. And he's writing about whatever the the Morse code was saying. He was writing it down, not word for word, but the gist of it.
What?
And so the Morse code makes him go into trance, or he does
Yeah.
it subconsciously?
Yeah.
It makes him goes into trance. The actual Morse code sound.
Yeah.
That's weird.
And then when he was brought out of the state, he just looked at us and said, "No, guys." this is
Sorry, I
crazy."
should prof
He
read
himself
better.
can't grasp the concept of the Manchurian Candidate. He can't. But he also can't explain why he can't remember.
That may sound fairly fantastic, but I did interview his brother Munir, and his brother said it was true that he could hear Morse code in the background because Sirhan played with his shortwave radio mostly every night, including the weekend before the assassination, and that he mostly was listening to Morse code. So these notebooks were actually shaped before the assassination, and he wrote down the statements probably before he even was involved in the assassination, just so to make sure that he would be incriminated at trial. So we would call that a involuntary confession.
The first time that Dan and I met Sirhan together, he mentioned the radio man. He didn't call him the radio man, but he mentioned the fact that he met this guy and the radio. And it took us 2 years before we figured out, or thought we had figured out, the radio man and Morse code. And to see Sirhan, who said he doesn't know Morse code, under hypnosis being able to decipher Morse code. So I honestly believe that notebook was dictated to him via the Morse code.
That may seem fantastic, but
Automatic writing.
you have to remember the
That's what
historic
I've heard.
context of this. In the 1950s and 1960s, the U.S. government was concerned about, particularly the Soviets involving themselves in brainwashing of people in the Moscow show trials in the 1930s and 40s. And then in the Korean War, of course, a number of American troops were captured and brainwashed and reverted to a communist ideology. 95% of them reverted back to their original ideology within 3 weeks of leaving the prison camps, but 5% never did. So there's about 5% of people who are unduly suggestible, and they are highly vulnerable to suggestive influence. And that, in order to keep up with the Soviets and the Russians,
I wonder how suggestible I
particularly
am.
under Allen Dulles, the CIA was involved in secret mind control experiments in the 1950s and 60s. They got caught for it. One experiment they got caught for that was embarrassing to them was at William Allison Memorial White Hospital in Montreal.
Up in
And
Canada.
they were taking outpatients, kidnapping them, putting them on an inpatient unit, strapping them down, and playing the same tape loop over and over again to erase the mind, giving them LSD and giving them hypnotic suggestions, a combination of sensory deprivation, LSD, and hypnosis. They were so above the law that they would take anybody. There were several subjects who were kidnapped who were spouses of Canadian cabinet members. They did whatever they wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
So we know that they used a combination of hypnosis and psychedelic drugs and sensory deprivation. So we know that research was being done in several.
There was an Israeli prime minister who was assassinated, just by the way. I forgot his name, but I wanted to look into that because apparently, it's well known over there. It seems to be the right wing that likes to kill people. Incidentally. A lot of the people killed were left wing. It's just like, there is communism on the left. I don't know. They just don't seem that different to me. It's weird. It's like
Several research
I feel like it's all
centers
the same people.
in the 1960s and early 70s about mind control.
They fight each other, I guess.
Under a project called MK Ultra that the CIA was involved in.
I just don't want anything to do with either of
In fact,
them.
I had worked at Maryland Psychiatric Research Center in 1971, and there was a lab there by John Lennox who did work on hypnosis and sensory deprivation and hallucinogens. And we later found out that the whole research center was funded by the CIA. This was one of their sites. None of us knew that at the time. One of the other sites was run by Jolly West, the head of the psychiatry department at UCLA. And he had a lab in the San Bernardino Mountains where they worked on mind control experiments. So he would be the more likely candidate to be the person to program Sirhan. So At one point, I gave Sirhan a picture of Jolly West and 5 other dummy pictures, and he immediately pointed out to Jolly West and said, "This guy's familiar to me," but he couldn't say why, so it wasn't a full identification. It actually started in with the OSS before the CIA, and when they were doing work in the 1940s,
This is a long
there was a
video.
hypnotist by the name of George.
I don't know. I should stop. This is too long. By way of deception, RFK's false flag assassination, the forgotten Palestinian patsy. The ultimate key to the JFK whodunit is in RFK's assassination, which has a very clear, unmistakable Israeli signature. RFK's assassination is a masterwork of false flag operation designed by a supremely intelligent Machiavellian and organized cabal, the same that orchestrated 1 year earlier with Johnson's complicity, the attempted false flag attack on it. That was 1 year earlier. I'm busy. Virulent anti-Semite. Just hours after Robert's assassination, the press informed the American people not only of the identity of the assassin, but also of his motive and even of his detailed biography. 24-year-old Sirhan Bashara Sirhan was born in Jordan, and I heard he was born in Jerusalem, and had moved to the United States when his family was expelled from West Jerusalem in 1948. He saw traumatizing things, by the way, as a kid. He saw, again, he was Christian, but, you know, he knew Arabic, and he was accused of reading the Quran while he was in prison, but he said he was just trying to brush up on his Arabic and not lose it or something. You know, it was like brought up right after 9/11. There were people writing articles like, well, I think it talks about it in here, but they're like, RFK was the first Islamic terror victim. Or, you know, they're like using it all the way years later in 2001 for the war on terror. Okay, but anyway, he saw like a leg that got blown up. He was, you know, shoved out of his house. He saw horrible things. He saw a leg like hanging off of something, like on a church, like the cross on the church or something, or the steeple or something weird. A leg. After the shooting, a newspaper clipping was found in Sirhan's pocket, quoting Robert's following statement: "The United States should without delay sell Israel the 50 Phantom jets she has so long been promised." Handwritten notes by Sirhan found in a notebook at his home confirmed that this act had been premeditated and motivated by his hatred of Israel. There's one I saw that had like, it was, there was one that had, where are they? No, that's not it. Okay, anyway. That became the mainstream storyline from day one. Jerry Cohen of the Los Angeles Times wrote a front page article saying that Sirhan is described by acquaintances as a virulent anti-Israeli. Cohen changed that into virulent anti-Semite in an article for the Salt Lake Tribune. Salt Lake? And that investigation and disclosures from persons who knew him best revealed him as a young man with supreme hatred for the state of Israel. Cohen infers that Senator Kennedy became a personification of that hatred because of his recent pro-Israeli statements. Cohen further revealed that about 3 weeks before the shooting, Sirhan wrote a memo to himself that said Kennedy must be assassinated before June 5th, 1968. That is, Cohen notes, the first anniversary of the Six-Day War in which Israel humiliated 3 Arab neighbors, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. After September 11, 2001, the tragedy of Robert's assassination was rewritten and installed into the neocon mythology of the clash of civilizations and the war on terror. A book entitled The Forgotten Terrorist by Mel Aiton, 2007, purports to present a wealth of evidence about Sirhan's fanatical Palestinian nationalism and to demonstrate that Sirhan's politically motivated act was a forerunner of present-day terrorism. In 2008, on the occasion of the 40th anniversary of Bobby's murder, Sasha Eisenberg of the Boston Globe recalled that the death of Robert Kennedy was a first taste of Mideast terror. He quotes Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz, he's such a great guy, right? Saying, "It was in some ways the beginning of Islamic terrorism in America. It was the first shot. A lot of us didn't recognize it at the time. That Sirhan was from a Christian family was lost on Dershowitz." Yeah. Rabbi Jeffrey Selkin took care to mention it in the foreword, only to add that Islamic fanaticism ran in his veins anyway. But what he shared with his Muslim cousins, the perpetrators of September 11th, was a visceral, irrational hatred of Israel. It drove him to murder a man whom some still believe might have been the greatest hope of an earlier generation. Sirhan hated Kennedy because he had supported Israel. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Sorry. Oh, okay, I gotta stop. And so the foreword insists one cannot help but note the parallel between Robert Kennedy's assassination and the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001. You know what? I agree, but for a different reason than they are purporting here. In both tragic cases, Arab fanaticism reared its ugly head on American soil, irrevocably changing the course of events in this country. And the lesson in remembering Bobby Kennedy let us remember not just what he lived for, but also what he died for, namely the precious nature of the American-Israeli relationship. In other words, let's propagate the narrative, for it is good for Israel. President Kennedy gave Israel a strong warning about its nuclear reactor in 1963. Declassified documents show President John Kennedy warned Israeli Prime Minister Levi Eshkol in 1963 that U.S. support for the young country would be seriously jeopardized if Israel did not allow the United States periodic inspections of Israel's nuclear reactor. A telegram from Kennedy dated July 4th, 1963 congratulates Eshkol on assuming the prime ministership after David Ben-Gurion's resignation, and recounts talks between Kennedy and Ben-Gurion about inspections at the reactor in Dimona. As I wrote Mr. Ben-Gurion, this government's commitment to and support of Israel could be seriously jeopardized if it should be thought that we were unable to obtain reliable information on a subject as vital to peace as Israel's effort in the nuclear field, the telegram said. The telegram was declassified in the 1990s, but was not widely available until last week when the National Security Archives, a project affiliated with George Washington University, posted it on its website. Kennedy, who was otherwise close to Israel, was furious with its ostensible nuclear weapons program, fearing that the Soviet Union could use it as leverage to maintain its influence in the Middle East. Eshkol, caught off guard by the tone of the telegram, took 7 weeks to assent, and the twice-yearly inspections continued until 1969, when President Richard Nixon ended them. Also revealed in the trove of documents the National Security Archives posted is the origin of Israel's oft-repeated credo that it would not be the first to introduce nuclear weapons, a deliberately ambiguous statement that left Israel room to develop the weapons but not arm them. Shimon Peres, then the deputy defense minister, he would later lead the country as prime minister for 2 stints and then become president. So they have prime ministers and presidents, like different jobs. Improvised the statement when he was surprised by Kennedy during a meeting that Peres had scheduled with Kennedy's advisor, Meyer Feldman, who also functioned as the administration's liaison to Israel and the U.S. Jewish community. Unbeknownst to Peres, Kennedy and Feldman had planned the surprise encounter. According to a Hebrew language foreign ministry of Israel account of the April 2nd, 1963 meeting, Kennedy asked Peres, I don't know how to say it, into the Oval Office for 30 minutes and questioned him on Israel's nuclear capacity. You know that we follow very closely the discovery of any nuclear development in the region, Kennedy said. This could create a very dangerous situation. For this reason, we monitor your nuclear effort. What could you tell me about this? Peres improvised. I can tell you most clearly that we will not introduce nuclear weapons to the region and certainly will not be the first. I need to stop. Join us on Telegram. It's under Heady Remarks. We're also on Odyssey, Odyssee, BitChute, Rumble, Trovo for now, I guess, still. I don't think anyone ever watches this on there, and I'm not sure I'm doing it right, but I don't know. This is just talking about stuff. Sandy Serrano. Sirhan's notebook showed a bizarre series of automatic writing that said RFK must die, RFK must be killed, Robert F. Kennedy must be assassinated before June 5th, 1968. And even under hypnosis, he has never been able to remember shooting Kennedy. He recalls being led into a dark place by a girl who wanted coffee, then being choked by an angry mob. Defense psychiatrists conclude he was in a trance at the time of the shooting, and leading psychiatrists suggest he may have been hypnotically programmed to take part in the shooting or to be a patsy for the real killers. Yeah, so they opened fire all at once, a bunch of distraction. Their target, right? Multiple gunfire, gunmen, gun people, multiple guns. That's the MO. Well, yeah, we can only hope. I just expect to, be kicked off places. I mean, Odyssey is my favorite at the moment as far as freedom. Point blank range. Okay, anyway, I don't know if I've really... Did Israel kill the Kennedys? From Yahweh to Zion, the best book ever written on the so-called Jewish question. He explains in the video, which is missing, of course. Dr. Guyenot discovered the deep events in U.S. history. Okay, I feel like I saw it. Yeah, he definitely would have reopened. Damn it. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know. It's just a thought. Ballistics, coroner's findings, and witness accounts. Yeah, based on the actual evidence. I'm not like crazy, you know, it's like this is the actual... It's possible. It's definitely possible. Probably can't play this. Is that Frank Sinatra?
Yes, I have word she'll be coming home soon. And when she does, I think we should give a little party.
But, babe, I thought that you and Senator Jones...
I keep telling you not to think. You're very, very good at a great many things, but thinking, hun, just simply isn't one of them. You just keep shouting point of order into the television cameras, and I will handle the rest.
Jimmy.
I think... I wondered if you'd like to attend.
Have you gone out of your mind?
The reason I ask is because we're giving it in honor of an old friend of yours and her father.
This is Frankenheimer's movie, I think. I wanted to see her, like, trigger him.
But you're wrong, Ben. You're wrong. He's tied up inside in 1,000 knots. I know that, but you can see for yourself how he is with me.
Another one I heard of someone doing was, like, a hypnotic suggestion where he said, I'm going to trigger you to, like, go over to the windowsill and grab this deck of cards and pull out the ace of spades. And the guy was like trying to resist doing it, and he like kind of knew about it or something, but he couldn't like stop being anxious until he did the thing that had been post-hypnotically suggested to him. Where did they hypnotize him? Oh, there's a dead guy.
The linkages still worked before they turned me over to my American operator. And that business about jumping in the lake.
Why did we title it Heady Remarks? Because we were talking about Hedy Lamarr, and it kind of rhymed. It's literally, it's kind of weird, but yeah. She invented like the technology that gives us like the ability to have a secure Wi-Fi connection in a weird way.
It really did happen.
She was an actress. She was
It was an
Delilah.
accident.
Samson and Delilah.
Something somebody said in the bar accidentally triggered it.
Keep playing.
Then I killed Senator Jordan. And after that,
You ought to forget everything that happened at the senator's house. Do you understand, Raymond? You'll only remember it when I tell you so. You ought to forget about it. Do you understand?
yes, sir.
Now, Raymond, now the big one. Why is all of this
Me
being
too.
done? What have they built you to do?
I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows except that it's over in Moscow. And my American operator here.
So he's supposed to be Russian? Is that
Whatever it is,
wait,
it's supposed to happen
Manchurian?
soon. Right at the convention. Maybe. I don't know. They can make me do anything, Ben. Can't they?
You're having typo problems. But yes, I did. I think if
We'll
I'm
see,
thinking of the one you're talking about.
We'll see what they can do and we'll see what we can do.
She said inventions just came naturally to her. Brains
So the
and
Red Queen
beauty.
is our baby. Well, take a look at this, kid. 52 of them. Take a good look at them, Raymond. Look at them, and while you're looking, listen. This is me, Marco, talking. 52 Red Queens of me are telling you. You know what we're telling you? It's over. The links, their beautifully conditioned links, are smashed. They're smashed as of now because we say so. Because we say they ought to be smashed. We're busting up the joint. We're tearing out all the wires. We're busting it up so good. All the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men will never put old Raymond back together again. You don't work anymore. That's an order. Anybody invites you to a game of solitaire, you tell them, sorry, Buster, the ball game is over.
You're both very sweaty. Okay, I need to stop. I just don't know how to end it. I'm not sure about anything, but I have suspicions, that's all. Funny, that's how I am about inventions.
It's time for my American operator to give me the plan.
I wish I could invent shit.
Yes?
I haven't had any good ideas.
Yes,
really.
I understand, Mother.
It's his mom, I think, that does it. Meryl Streep plays her in the one with...
She wants me to go. There's a car waiting for me downstairs.
I definitely got to look up more video
Convention's
evidence
adjourned
of
to
this thing where...
9 for the acceptance speeches.
Post-hypnotic suggestions where they do the thing
I
that...
don't think anything will happen until then.
That you told them to do.
I better go now.
Here's a number.
Is this after he's supposed to be deprogrammed? All right. Well, anyway.
I've got 500 people at my disposal, 1,000 if I need them.
Is that everything? Oh, that was like maybe what the dress kind of looked like, maybe? Maybe? Rise and kill first. I'm going to read that. Him. You get the idea. I don't know. I'm petering out. Hold on. Oh, I probably can't. Probably can't.
Now with Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Second gunman, dead or alive, that they had never done.
There was the chief law.
He was clearly regarded as guilty.
And it's Schrade, now 93, on means development in children and was reportedly so.
Where's RFK Jr.?
He won the California, but now Reed Bankert. But the
moments, Senator Rob Palestinian immigrant 69 results for months. He met with Sir.
Kennedy's assistant press secretary.
Died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time today here in Dallas. He died of a gunshot wound in the brain. Dr. Berkeley told me it's a simple matter, Tom, of a bullet right through the head.
I need to stop.
About this, as it relates to kind of Sieg deeply unconscious level.
Okay.
And
George Estabrooks, who worked for them for quite a number, tried to.
They admitted that we showed the possibility of a second gun person, but we didn't show who it was. We showed the possibility of mind control, but we didn't show who did it. That's not our job. Our job is to raise the doubt. It's the state's responsibility then to figure out who did it. We applied to the Supreme Court. We were rejected. We've exhausted all our legal recourses.
He was initially sentenced to death.
The only way that we
the trial was a sham. It was like both the defense and the prosecutors were, and the judge
and we could
were
ask for an
totally
evidentiary hearing
in on it.
But that's going to cost a lot of money, and we just don't have it.
After they blocked us for a year of seeing Sirhan, we finally went to Cochrane for the first time and saw him for 2 days. And I have a
Okay,
wife
I'm
and
just gonna stop. I don't know where to stop. This is this has to end. JFK, RFK, two sides of the same coin, same MO, same murderer, same traumatic event. MK Ultra. Mind control is much easier and more possible than people realize. Remember the bowl? Okay, I'm gonna go now. It's almost 2.5 hours long. Jesus. Okay. All right. Thank you. Good night and good luck. This has been talking about JFK and RFK and stuff. Over and out.